the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The Brunson burner, the one more thing king. He misses a one, dude. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I just noticed you left these things on here for our video pods now. Guys, you guys did it. You got us. We're at like 1,200 subs right now on YouTube.
What is going on? The Raccoon Squad showed up.
In 5 days, y'all got us over 1,000 subs on YouTube, and y'all are awesome. Seriously. I mean, this is cool.
Absolutely crazy. Guys, go subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you're watching on YouTube, thanks so much. Like and subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss a video. But for real, this is definitely helping us out, and it's just another platform to push this podcast. And so a lot of people like YouTube a little bit better. We decided to do that as a network and as a company, to start pushing towards YouTube. And to be honest, this podcast is one of the first ones to go on YouTube because it's been successful podcasts and all that. And that's because of what you guys have done. So really appreciate everybody that has subscribed so far that got us to 1,000. We got to 1,000 in 4 days. It's pretty nuts.
If you want to sign up for YouTube TV, use promo code Isaac40.
No, not even close.
See what that gives you.
Today's episode is brought to you by Mickle of Ultra at only 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the Ultra Player of the Week coming up later in the episode. All right, Isaac Harris. Today, like Stephen A. alluded to earlier in the audio podcast, if you're listening on to the actual podcast, we're talking about the ESPN top players under 25. We have 25 players under the age of 25. It's a big list. We're not going to save it for spoilers or anything. Luka's number one. I mean, obviously, right? Like that. It was pretty clear. Luka was going to be
a Stephen A. rant from one of us on today's pod if he was not number one.
Whew, they put like LaMelo or Zion or Tatum.
Guys, there's no case for Zion over Luka.
Not yet. Nope, not yet for sure. And even like you start thinking long term. Like I've been thinking about players like this. This is what I did with Marvin Bagley, and this is what I did with Denny Advia, and like players in the draft. What type of player is this guy, and can I envision that player being like the best player in the world, or an all-star even, right? Like I looked at Marvin Bagley, and I was like, this guy is, and I was so low on Marvin Bagley. Even like January of that draft, if you remember, you had him like top 3, and I had him like in the like teens or something, and you were like, you're crazy, blah blah blah, and I was like, no, I can't imagine this guy. Like, what would he have to do, and what would he have to be good at in order to be like an all-star level player? He would have to be so good at rolling, so good at rebounding, so good at all this other stuff to get to that level. And so Zion is kind of to that point with me. Like, what would he have to be an incredible playoff player, right? Or to be better than Luka? And this is just such a high bar, right? Like, he's already an awesome player. I'm not trying to disparage him in any way. Just saying, like, what would Zion have to be to pass Luka on this list? Because he would have to become an incredible defensive player, or, you know, that much better of a passer, or he'd have to get a shot, right? Any of those three things. If he gets better at any of those three things, then maybe you could talk about it. But the way that Luka plays and just how he's an offense unto himself, gets everyone else involved, all that kind of stuff, like it's kind of hard with the type of player Zion is to even catch Luka.
Yeah. I mean, are we sure Luka's not a better defender than Zion right now?
You almost maybe do a spit take right live on YouTube right now.
I'm just saying, I don't really know the answer to that. I would lean Luka, maybe because I've seen him play defense a lot better. There's some clips of him guarding Conley and stuff a few nights ago. I've seen some people tweet out that super impressive in that. But no, I mean, we want to see Zion in a big game. I mean, I think it helps that we've seen Luka in the playoffs, even though it was just 6 games, 5.5.
No, okay, but we've seen him in the playoffs. But somebody made a good point about this. I think it was KOC and Vernon on the mismatch. They said, I was worried about, well, what is Luka going to look like in the playoffs when everyone gets to game plan against him? Well, they played against the one team that would literally have the best chance to defend Luka, with Kawhi and Paul George and Patrick Beverly. And they had this whole lineup basically that would be, this is the exact guys. You want bigger wings that are longer, and then you have a guard that can just kind of mess him up, all that kind of stuff. And he just still torched him, right? We've seen it. So yeah, to your point, I want to see Zion in a playoff series to see what it looks like when teams can game plan against him for multiple games.
Yeah, and I kind of put him in the same, which I know Giannis is won, back-to-back MVPs and probably should be considered for this third one more than what he will. But I kind of put him in that same vein of what will Zion look like at the end of a big game? And we've seen Luka in the clutch. We saw his moment in the playoffs in the clutch that we'll all remember. What happens, can Zion get to the rim at will with the game on the line in a game 6, in a game 7? That's what we have to see.
Yeah, we saw this in a small way when the Mavs played the Pelicans recently, right? They were going to Brandon Ingram, and then they went to Eric Bledsoe, and everyone was like, why are they going to these guys? And then they went to Zion, and he scored a bunch at the end, and then they ended up winning that game. And so we've seen it a little bit here and there and seen clutch Zion. So he's a great player. He's number 2 on this list for ESPN. And we should probably reset and say this ESPN list of players under the age of 25, the top 25 players under the age of 25, rankings based on future potential. So this is projecting. This is not right now. So Stephen A. Smith was getting all mad about LaMelo Ball being number 3 ahead of Mitchell and Tatum and Devin Booker. But this is projecting. What do you think this guy's future is going to be? And so, yeah, I have no problem with the top 3, I don't think. Luka, Zion, LaMelo. The next one is Donovan Mitchell, Tatum, Fox, Simmons, Booker. I would probably put Booker over Simmons because it's the same kind of deal as Zion Luka, right? It's that offensive engine. It's that guy that can just get you a bucket, whereas Simmons, we're just, he's a great defender, good passer, right? But what does he have to be to get to that next level? Yeah, so, and we've seen Booker on a winning team now. So that's another plus in his department, I think.
Yeah, well, so much of this list, this is basically the question of who you'd want to start the franchise with, right? That we all do the hypothetical of, which player would you rather start the franchise with? Because, age plays into this. So when you look at LaMelo at number 3 on this list, he's 19 compared to Devin Booker at number 8 on this list, who's 24.
And so, Tatum at 5, who's still 19.
Yes, Tatum is 19. Also,
just kidding. He's not. He's not.
I'm looking for Bagley.
Ooh.
Oh, darn. I couldn't find
Wait,
it.
is Ayton on there?
Yeah, he's 25th.
20. He's 20th.
No, 20th. But that's the thing. It's right now at this exact moment, give me Devin Booker for sure. If I was starting a franchise moving forward, not saying 24 is 34, if I was starting a franchise, there are special qualities that LaMelo has. Y'all know, if you've been listening to this podcast, we were all about LaMelo going into this, into this draft. I was a huge fan of him and his feel for the game. And when you have somebody that size at 19, 6'5", 6'6", that has that vision and has that control and that feel for the game. And he's been, when he was healthy, he was hitting 3, some too. So I don't have a problem with it. I would halfway consider Jason Tatum though, just because I think Tatum's 23 and he just turned 23. And just because I think Tatum's that good. I think he could be top 8 player in the league here in a few years.
Yeah, it just depends. It depends on what type of team you have, right? We're seeing Tatum right now on a team with talent and they're struggling, right? Where you look at the Hornets and they had almost the same record as the Celtics, and they're a little bit better than the Celtics right now. And even Melo's been out obviously, but you just look and you're like, okay, well, what can a guy like a LaMelo do for a team? So to your point, if you're starting a team, I would rather have LaMelo than Tatum because LaMelo can create stuff for your team, whereas Tatum creates for himself. LaMelo can create for others, and he moves the board around. You know what I mean?
He does, but it's with Luka, he's not on the Luka level.
No.
Luka has it both. Luka can, give the ball to Luka and say, get me a bucket at the end of the game. But he also has the quarterback feel of I'm going to run the show. LaMelo, are we sure he has that give me the ball at the end, I'm going to go get a bucket.
Yeah, right.
That type of stardom, to where Jason Tatum gives you that. Like, I'm confident. I feel confident in the fact that I can hand the ball to Jason Tatum at the end of a game and say, go get me a bucket, more than some of these other guys. So I'm down for either one of those. I like both of those guys, but I guess I would lean LaMelo just because he's 19 and everything that you listed.
Yeah, interesting. So that's the list. Coming up, we'll get into some more of what we think about this list and go back down the ranks. Trae Young, kind of far down in this list. It's an interesting conversation.
I thought he was high.
Talk about who's ahead of him, who's below him, all that, get into all that. But we have to talk about the Mickle of Ultra Player of the Week. It's hard for me to pick a player of the week and it not be Luka every single week. But Jaylen Brunson is up there for me this week. Jaylen Brunson, just watching him hit that little like turnaround in the lane, fade away kind of 2-point shot. The fact that he's shooting 60% from 2-point range right now. There's very few players. We're going to get into Jalen Brunson in the third segment. I have a couple of stats on him, but Jalen Brunson is probably my pick, at least for the guy that brought me the most joy this week.
I would give it to Brunson, yes, just because of how much he's produced, but my heart wants to give it to Nico Melli.
Oh, that's the answer. Wow.
I mean, just the addition of
Melli. How quickly have I forgot?
He was the throw-in. When that trade was first announced, we thought it was Trey Lyles coming from San Antonio. It got switched at the last moment. Melli comes to Dallas. We thought he was just a throw-in, and little did we know that the werewolf himself would be it is the Melli trade until JJ Redick plays and has an impact. And realistically, he's impressed us and impressed a lot of Mavs fans in his minutes that he's played. And we think he's earned a spot in the rotation moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicolò Melli's the answer. He's the player that gives us the most joy for sure. 5-0 when Nicolò Melli plays. Only worth it if you enjoy it. It's definitely worth it when Nicolò Melli plays. 2.6 carbs, 95 calories. Joy creates success. Joy isn't the end game. It's the whole game. So go check out some Mickle of Ultra. Are you happy because you win, or do you win because you're happy? The Mavs didn't have to choose between the two of those because they won all their games this week, and hopefully they'll do that continually. So we will talk more about the Dallas Mavericks and get into Jalen Brunson and the rest of this list coming up. Get all the sports news you need in under 20 minutes with the Locked On Today podcast. Host Peter Bukowski updates you on the latest news in every major sport with the help of our local experts. Follow the Locked On Today podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get back into this list. So we mentioned the top 5 is Luka, Zion, LaMelo Ball, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum. Then 6 through 10 is De'Aaron Fox, Ben Simmons, Devin Booker, Bam Adebayo, SGA. And then we have Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Ja Morant, and I still have not said Trae Young yet, but I will now. Trae Young, number 16 on this list. So those are the guys ahead of him. The guys below Trae Young, Mikal Bridges, Domantas Sabonis, Anthony Edwards, DeAndre Ayton, Tyrese Halliburton, John Collins, Jarrett Allen, Lonzo Ball, and Colin Sexton. Man, Trae Young seems both high and low. He seems a little low to me, but I don't.
Can I tell you a player that was ranked beneath him that I would take over him?
Is it Sabonis?
No, it's Mikal Bridges. I would start a franchise right now with Mikal Bridges over Trae Young.
You would take Mikal Bridges over Trae Young?
I would.
See, it just depends on, like, yeah, if you take Mikal Bridges, then yes, like I can envision him being in a playoff series. But if I take Trae Young, I have an automatic, like, floor as an offensive team.
Okay. I mean, sure. I was going to say, it's not an automatic playoff berth. It's not an automatic second round play. It's not a automatic make my team better. It's not an automatic top 10 defense. You have an automatic guy who can, shoot it a couple of feet, past half court, inside half court.
And that's something.
It is something. Trae is an incredible scorer, but the outrage of where he's ranked on this list, a lot of the, hey, Luka has peaked stuff that happened in year 1, year 2, and people are trying to, put that label on Luka that, he's already peaked already. I honestly do think Trae Young has peaked because he's averaging 30 and 10, which is crazy, but the defensive stuff, how much better defensively can he get at his size? Like, Trae's not going to hit a growth spurt. So when you look at these guys in the league, it's like guys that are that small, how finding their way in the league to be, a finals team. Has Chris Paul ever made it to the finals?
It's like Iverson and like I guess Isaiah Thomas in a way, but even Isaiah Thomas is bigger than Trae Young.
Yeah, well, Isaiah Thomas was great defensively, and Trae's just not that. So, that's the thing. It's like he's fun, and he's fun to have in like an all-star type game. He's fun to watch, like score the basketball. But if I'm like starting a franchise, I just don't know how much better Trae can get, because he's putting up incredible numbers. But will he be like? Can you envision a Trae Young led team in the NBA Finals?
No, it would be really hard. You'd have to really build something around him, because he's not.
I mean, the route is the Iverson route, back in the early 2000s.
Or like Steph Curry, but even Steph Curry can hold his own defensively better than Trae Young can so far.
Yeah.
Like it would have to be that route. You'd have to pair Klay Thompson with him and a Draymond type, right? Where you have and a couple of probably wing defenders like Iguodala or even Durant, right? Like it would have to be that level of defender where you can cover up for all that. But even like a Bogut as the center, right? Like there was a really good center that knew where to be. You'd have to build that kind of thing around him.
It's kind of difficult. Like we've talked about the Ben Simmons, Trae Young thing. Now, I think Ben Simmons is personally too high on this list. He's a little like higher up for me. But it's like the whole Trae versus Ben thing. Would you rather have the 6'10" guy who can't shoot but is arguably the best perimeter defensive player in the league, or would you rather have the 6-foot guard who could shoot it from anywhere but can't guard literally anybody in the entire league? Like, he probably can't even guard Isaiah Thomas for the Pelicans right now.
Yeah, it's been a debate with us for a long time. Any other thoughts on this list? Anybody else that stuck out to you? It was interesting to me that Anthony Edwards was 19 and LaMelo was 3, and Anthony Edwards recently was taken over LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, well, I mean, watching Anthony Edwards, he's fun, but I mean, I think the dude's shooting the ball second most times in the league behind Bradley Beal a game. I could be wrong on that.
Over the last month or so, he's taken like over 20 shots a game.
Yeah, I mean, he's just chucking the ball up, and efficiency is not a word that I would use to describe him. But I mean, I don't know. I think Ben Simmons is a tad bit high. I think De'Aaron Fox is a little high for me at 6. To have De'Aaron Fox over Ben Simmons and Booker and even like Bam, I feel validated on the SGA thing. Even coming into the draft and after the draft, I was very vocal of saying I would take SGA over Trae Young. I'm glad other people still feel that way. Jamal Murray and Ja Morant are two that are so intriguing, because Ja, I would take him over Trae, but him at 15, I guess the injury thing. Okay, you said save this for the pod. Let's look at last year at this list. ESPN's list last year, top 25.
Well, I'm interested in this.
Yes, under 25. Luka 1, Zion 2, Jason Tatum 3, Ben Simmons 4, Towns is 5, but Towns is 25 now.
Yeah.
Mitchell 6, Ja Morant 7, Trae Young 8. Trae Young went from 8 last year to 16 this year.
And he had a better year last year than he's having so far this year.
Yeah.
Statistically, at least.
Brandon Ingram was 9, and Devin Booker was 10 on that list.
Interesting.
D'Angelo Russell was 14 on that list. Woof.
Would he show up on this list? Where would he show up? Actually, he's still under 25, right? So
Russell? Oh, he's 24. He might be 25 now.
I'm looking.
I don't know. Is it? Okay.
He's 25. No, he's 25. But would he show up on this list? I would put him probably above Collins. Maybe that's it.
Okay, let's talk about Trae Young and De'Aaron Fox real quick. They basically switch. They swapped spots. De'Aaron Fox was 15th last year. Now he moved up to 6. Trae Young was 8 last year and now moved down to 16. Has De'Aaron Fox did that much for you to jump up that high and to like reverse how you would feel between him and Trae Young? Because I don't think Trae Young is that much worse than De'Aaron Fox. I mean, I think it's a conversation at least. Like, what's De'Aaron Fox really done.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in the West, so you're like, he's played against harder competition more. He actually, so his second year, he shot 37% from three, and we were like, oh man, maybe he's got a three-point shot. Then he shot under 30% last year. And so, yeah, I don't know about De'Aaron Fox there. I don't know what made people think that I wouldn't have him higher than Booker for sure. Probably SGA too. I probably wouldn't have him higher than SGA.
Yeah.
Because De'Aaron Fox is like a little bit less of an issue, right? Because defensively, he can bring it. But still, to build a team around a guy like that, if that guy's your fulcrum, like your offensive engine and everything, like it's still hard to build. Like you mentioned Chris Paul. We mentioned like Iverson, Isaiah Thomas. Like we're talking about some of the best, and even some of those guys didn't make it all the way and win. So, yeah, I don't know.
Jamal Murray was 18 last year, and this year he came in at 13. This guy's like, man, I put up 50 points multiple times in the playoffs. I can't even crack the top 12 on this list.
Yeah, that's wild. The thing about him though is he's like everything he does is like has Jokic next to him. You're like, oh well, so he just did this next to Jokic, and so it sort of takes the shine off of him a little bit. Even though in the bubble he did pretty much all that scoring himself, but yeah. I think that has some kind of like when we talk about MVP where guys split votes, I feel like that like you split potential. Like, oh well, this is what he's next to Jokic. I don't know.
So you're not with me in taking Mikel over Trae?
I don't think so. No, because if I want to sell tickets, if I want to be at least a fun team, like all that, sure. But like,
well, yeah, if I want to sell tickets, then sure.
Well, you're starting a franchise. There's lots of stuff to think about. You got gate revenue. You got to think about merchandise sales. You got to think about like, are people going to be behind this guy? Are they going to want to see him? They're going to watch him on TV. Nobody's turning on the TV for Mikal Bridges. All right, coming up, a couple of newsy things for the Dallas Mavericks as they play the Houston Rockets tonight on Wednesday. If you're listening, watching this, we will also get into Jaylen Brunson. He has been really, really good. So I want to talk about Jaylen Brunson and just what is he, what can he be, and just a little bit about Jaylen Brunson. So we'll get into that coming up. But before we do, BuiltBar.com. It's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, not the website, but the actual bar itself. They're absolutely delicious. They have incredible flavors that you can check out right now. Go to BuiltBar.com. Use that promo code LOCKED15 to get a 15% off. A couple of the bars that are available right now that Isaac and I love. We love the Mint Brownie. Mint Brownie is incredible. We love the raspberry, the cherry barcia. A lot of people love the cookies and cream. I'm not a huge fan of that one, but I like it. Peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, all those are incredibly good to go try. Go get them right now. And they're pretty good for you. They're low calorie, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, great for a keto diet. It's a perfect snack, perfect like you have 3 hours between meals and you need to just get something to fill that time, basically like in your stomach. That's the perfect thing. It's the perfect thing to do. So go to BuiltBar.com, use that promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your next order with Built Bar. And you can be eating your Built Bar while you put some money down on betonline.ag. The Masters is coming up. They have a $1,000 welcome bonus for the Masters. You can also still use the promo code Locked On, get a 50% welcome bonus if you want to do that as well. So depending on how much money you have, one of those two can work out for you. But with the Masters coming up this weekend, you can put some money down on that. Still have basketball and NBA every single night. They have NBA game props and futures and all kinds of stuff that you can bet on. So go check it out. They also have some WNBA props right now. WNBA championship winner, the Vegas Aces, number one right now, plus 200. The Seattle Storm, plus 225. The Aces, man, they're this wild team where they have like 4 or 5 number one picks, and they were in the finals last year, and they're getting one of my favorite players in the WNBA, Liz Cambage, back. And so that team, who knows what they're capable of. Mystics plus 400, Lynx plus 500. So you can put some money down on that if you want to get a future. Our Dallas Wings are plus 6,000. They are probably not going to sniff the playoffs again this year, but hey, building for something. Got the top 2 picks in the draft coming up next week. So, all right, betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. Get more analysis on the top prospects available in this year's NBA draft with the Locked On NBA Draft podcast. Scouting reports, draft rumors, mock drafts, and full coverage of March Madness 4 days a week by credentialed draft experts. Follow the Locked On NBA Draft podcast on Odyssey or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Isaac Harris, couple of news items that we want to get to. Kristaps Porzingis, after missing the game against the Jazz, is available Wednesday, should be available to play. Who are you looking at and talking to? You're not looking at me.
Sorry. Talking to someone off camera.
KP is traveling with the team. He's expected to play tonight on Wednesday if you're listening to this then. So I'm going to go with what I said yesterday, and that they just picked a load management thing and like did that thing where they just point to a section of the body and was like, this is the thing that's wrong. And we're just going to say that, and he's just going to be out.
This wrist. All right. We're picking the wrist. That's what. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, you've been frozen on my screen for a while. So just giving you a heads up on the YouTube stream that's why I couldn't see what you were doing. But no, yeah, the fact that he is traveling to Houston, that they think that he should be good to go. I mean, it goes without saying. It's a very positive thing because 24 hours ago it was, hey, no timetable. We don't know what's going on. And it looked kind of bleak, but looks much better. And guys, we're going to need all the help we can get against Houston.
Yep, absolutely. So Kristaps Porzingis is expected to play. Everybody else still is out, though. Willie CauleyStein has been out since March 17th. Like, he's been out over 3 weeks, and I have no idea. And so my theory was that he, contracted COVID. He tested positive because he's been in health and safety protocols. It's not been like an injury. He's just been in health and safety protocols since March 17th. However, he just posted on his Instagram that he got the vaccine. And so either he got it right after he had COVID, which you're not supposed to do, I've heard. And so, yeah, I'm very confused about this whole Willie situation, just as confused as I am about the Tyrell Terry situation where he's still out with personal reasons. No idea. And so this is one of these things that's been difficult for beat writers and journalists and even, guys like us that just talk about stuff and we go to these press conferences and sometimes ask questions and stuff. We don't know information about right now. Like, if we were in the building, we'd be able to ask people and talk to people. And right now, we get 3 players presented to us after games and Coach Carlisle sometimes. And we ask Carlisle, and he's like, I'm not going to get into it, right? And then that's our answer. And so it's just been very frustrating this year to get information, to learn stuff about, what guys are doing and all that. So that's my soapbox for today. But let's talk about Jaylen Brunson, unless you have a comment about all those guys being out.
I don't.
Jaylen Brunson has been so good this season. I just wanted to get into it real quick. The only players shooting 60% from 2-point range or higher that are under 6'4" that are playing like meaningful minutes, so it's not just like a guy that went out there and took like 5 shots, is Jaylen Brunson. He's the only player under 6'4" to hit 60% of his 2-point shots. There's only 4 credible players shooting 60% from 2, 40% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line. You want to take a stab at who these 4 players are? Just wild. Think about wild role players, pretty good, all really good shooters, obviously.
Oh, there's no way I would know these.
Duncan Robinson, obviously.
Okay.
He doesn't take a lot of 2s, right? Him and Brunson are kind of flipped in that. Mikal Bridges, your guy.
Let's go.
And then Joe Ingles is the other guy. So Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Joe Ingles, Duncan Robinson, the only players in the NBA to shoot 60% or higher from 2-point range, 40% or higher from 3-point range, and 80% or higher from the free throw line. Absolutely wild, those guys. And so my question now is, what is Jalen Brunson? I put some numbers up on my Twitter account today, at Nick Van Exit. You can also follow at Locked On Mavs, at Isaac Harris on Twitter. But I put some numbers up comparing Jalen Brunson's first 3 years to the first 3 years of Kyle Lowry's career, and then the next 3 years, which are basically when, his 22-year-old season, his 23-year-old season, his 24-year-old season, which is how old Brunson is right now. And the numbers are really close. Brunson's been a better shooter than Lowry was, but Lowry was a little bit better of a passer, it seems. And so now it's like, can he take that kind of leap? Because somebody, a couple people in my mentions last night were like, I'm making a bold prediction. Brunson's going to be an all-star. If he's ever going to do that, he'd have to take a leap like Lowry, which is what Lowry had to do was go to a different team, find a different role, step up, get a big, push in minutes. He went from 25 minutes a game to 36 minutes a game, basically. And then, he took over that Toronto team, and he ended up being an all-star 6 years in a row. Basically found his spot. But yeah, can Jalen Brunson take a leap like that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. With Brunson, what I've tried to do over his career, over these 3 seasons basically, is I just don't want to set an expectation for him. I don't want to, try to. He's a second round pick. I don't want to sit here and say, all right, he can be Lowry 2.0. And if he's not Lowry 2.0, then we're kind of like disappointed when it's like, all right, well, he was a second round pick. So I've just kind of approached Jalen Brunson's career development as, man, if he can be a solid rotational player and solid piece of the team moving forward, then that's a win because that just doesn't happen very often for a second round pick. And I think he's proving that. And he's proving it even like more. I mean, we've said so many times, like, he's not a starter. He's, your sixth man. He's the perfect backup point guard. But then you watch him at the end of these games. You watch him with Luka Doncic. You watch him over these past 15 games. His past 15 games, the Mavericks have went 10-5 in those games. He shot 55% from the field, 40% from three in those games. He's averaging almost 14 points a game, +8 net rating when he's in the game. But the biggest thing is ending these games in the fourth quarter. Him and Luka Doncic together. It's like we know they have this chemistry off the court. They love each other. They're best friends. Or I shouldn't say they're best friends. They're really good friends. And I don't know how great of friends they are. They are really good friends, though.
They're good frenemies, right? Like, they go back and forth at each other. They make each other wear jerseys. They do that kind of stuff. They poke fun.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
But, like, you look at their minutes together. They finish a lot of these fourth quarters together. And that's when you see, we've talked about even his rookie season when Luka played with JJ Barea some, and we're like, ooh, okay, like that's what a secondary creator looks like. Now it's Brunson. And it's like when they have both of those guys on the floor at the end of the games, now we've seen Brunson kind of replace J-Rich in a sense to end some of these games. But Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic on the floor together for 501 minutes together this season. They're at a +8 net rating together, offensive rating at 118, defensive rating at 109. When they're both off the floor, it's a -8 net rating. Yes, -8 net rating. And that pairing has worked well at the end of game. I think the end of the game is what means the most to me. That it's all about who finishes the game and it's not about who starts the game. But them finishing the game together and them being as efficient they are together, then that has been a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. He's averaging about 5.5 minutes in third quarter. So he's averaging 6.5 minutes per quarter in the first and second quarter, about 5.5 minutes in third quarters, and then 7.5 minutes in fourth quarters, right? Like he's getting most of his run in fourth quarters, and that's been the crucial thing. We talked about it against, when the Mavs beat the Jazz, that he's been kind of the big fix. And so, yeah, great stuff from Jalen Brunson. What's his ceiling? I don't know. Could he be on a Lowry track? His numbers kind of indicate that he could be. If he gets a big role increase at some point, maybe he could get to the point of being a Kyle Lowry. There's definitely
defensively is the key for the Lowry thing. Lowry's a good defender, and that's the thing for Brunson is, can he withstand defensively some of these best guards in the league for him to reach that level? And that's. Like, offensively, I'm not as worried about him because he can run an offense. He can score the basketball. I'm not worried about any of that. It's defensively, can he establish himself and be an above-average defender against opposing point guards? That's the next level for his game.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we will be back breaking down the Dallas Mavericks' next two games against the Rockets and the Bucks. I think we may do post-game with Kane Pittman of Locked On Bucks, so check back with that. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.